And welcome back to News Center. Thank you very much for joining us and staying with us here on the show. We'll be continuing with our conversation in a few moments. I'm seeing quite a number of tweets with regard to our two people in our conversation. Remember, we are talking about gauging the performance of our legislators in Parliament, and we'll be getting back to that discussion in a few moments. But for now, though, I want us to cross over to Mombasa, where more than 2,000 members of county assemblies and senators are meeting there for the third annual Devolution Legislative Summit. We understand that Deputy President William Ruto is expected to officially open the summit today, with NASA leader Raila Odinga also expected to close it, but that's on Thursday. Let's just cross over there and listen in to a bit of what's happening.
Are you happy?
But iko mbali sana.
Very good. Haya, wakisi, muko.
Watu wengine wana sauti.
Wakisi. Muko wapi? Muko wapi? Incho. Incho. Incho.
Wako na mix.
All right, so we'll be getting back there once the function officially begins. Remember that, like I mentioned, we have more than 2,000 representatives from the counties who are meeting up in Mombasa for the County Legislative Summit. And like I mentioned also, the Deputy President, William Ruto, is going to be officially opening it today. Once that happens, we'll be crossing back there to follow through. But let me come back to our discussion here in studio. And it's all about gauging performance of legislators. And I have been speaking to Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, who's a Migori Woman Representative, and also we've been having Kevin Osido, who's an Executive Director of the County Governance Watch. Thank you very much for staying with us. All right, Dr. I'd like to also talk about something that the Speaker mentioned, and that has to do with the fact that once a bill gets to the third reading, that normally finding quorum in Parliament is normally a challenge, and this, he says, is one of the most crucial processes and levels of some of the bills or the laws which of course would be passed later on.
I'm not sure how accurate that is, but I think what I have observed is that creating a quorum and all these things to pass the bill and make it effective or accepted and pushed on to the next level. I think the few instances that I've observed is that, remember, it's like these bills and motions and everything, there is sometimes politics attached to it, and you find sometimes people lobby and they feel they don't want to support the bill or something like that, and then for the bill not to pass, there would be no quorum.
Yes.
But ideally, since this particular parliament where I've been sitting started, I don't think I've really witnessed something like that. Like there was an afternoon when there was a bill to be passed, and strangely enough, by the time we sat in Parliament, the majority leader came and said they are withdrawing the bill. Oh. So it was not discussed, it was not passed. And I don't know, I've not seen in the short time that I've been in Parliament that deliberate attempt to deny the House of the bill. If it has happened in the other parliamentary sessions, the 11th, 10th, then yes. I may not be really competent to comment about it. But I think what I want to encourage is that we as parliamentarians, it is good that we are present in Parliament. And even if we don't agree with something, it would be good that it should go on record that yes, this thing was passed, but against the opinion of so-and-so and the support of this section. So whichever way, I think the other issue that has been also harassing this parliament that may need to be addressed, you know, sometimes there is also this concept of the so-called tyranny of numbers.
Yeah.
So sometimes there is a really genuine sound voice of why we should not do this or why we should do this. But you see, because a section feels like we are more than this, then things are passed even when they are really not right, and these are the issues. So the concept of quorum, I think I want to support and suggest that when there is an important issue to be discussed and passed, we should be there to actually see to it that it is passed.
Right.
But when something also is not supposed to be passed, but people can see clearly that there is a hand pushing it no matter what, then that again, you said these people are leaders who have also their discretions. And sometimes it is also not good to force them just to pass things, especially when they really don't agree with it.
Right.
And those are the issues that there are. As we wind up, I don't know how long you want to take on this, on that issue of actual participation on the floor.
Yes.
I think as the Speaker ventures out to give the newcomers more induction and helping them to participate to their level best, I think it is important that we also consider there is these standing orders that parliamentary runs, participation runs on committee basis. And most of the time, the priority is given to the majority, minority, leaders, whips, and then the speaker's panel and the leadership of the committees.
Yeah.
And what this does by the end of the day, in my opinion, if these people do not use this time properly and also allow other members to participate, we can have a whole session of even an hour when the minority speakers is just, you know, enjoying himself on the floor and other members are seated there watching. And therefore, I really think that either maybe...
So is that also a challenge to the Speaker?
I am not sure if it's a challenge to him, but because he has not mentioned it.
Would you challenge the Speaker?
I would want to challenge the Speaker and all of us. Now, look at the parliamentary history. At some stage, the parliamentarians were fewer. At some stage, they were 210. Now, we are talking about 300 plus. Now, if all these 300 plus have to get a chance to equally speak and represent their people and say something, then I think something needs to be done about this concept of timing. How much time do we give to the majority leader, minority leader, the heads of departments, so that the rest of the members also have a chance to speak?
All right. Interesting. Kevin, your thoughts?
Yeah, precisely. I agree with Mheshimiwa. Probably just to add that one is parliamentary proceedings. Well, let me call it the parliamentary process needs to be opened up to the public so that those who want to venture to study the parliamentary process can then do it with a very open eye from a knowledge-based perspective and not rumors or propaganda. Because, you know, for those who are watching us and many who have tried going to parliament, it's a place where there is even a procedure on how to get into parliament. For instance, you will not just walk in there without a suit. You must be in a suit. You will not just walk in your cultural, traditional regalia. There is a process in which you walk into parliament. When you are right inside from the gate, there is a way you even walk as you get into the chambers and then where you sit. So some of these things, I think, need to be opened up to the public through a civic education process. And two is, you note that initially we used to have the cameras beaming the entire parliament, the entire house when a member is speaking. And today we have the cameras having been directed to just beam the specific person who is speaking. And so I think it is also important that those of us who are interested in looking at how this is happening really take time and don't just focus on certain specific issues. For example, how much time does one take to speak? The third thing is it therefore possible that we can also move on to be able to strengthen committees? Mheshimiwa has talked about committees, but I think as people get into elective processes, there are two things that happen in my view. One is the passion or the need for you to vie or the need for you to be nominated to sit inside the House, whether National Assembly, Senate, or the County Assembly. The second thing is a committee perspective. Why are you in the Health Committee, for example, and not Agriculture or Education or Energy or Infrastructure? There must be something, in my view, that then makes you get driven to get into that committee. So is it therefore possible that all those nice contributions that you have as a member can be channeled through the committee?
Through the committees.
And sometimes I also wonder whether the the Speaker can be able to be as open to allow the chairs of those various committees to, at the end of their submissions, also mention the members of the committees. And maybe the Akamukunjis agree on, is it possible that the chair makes his or her comments?
Right.
And then members of the committee feel involved in the process by reading and sharing the deliberations.
Okay.
So that then those who are watching through TV can also hear the names of their members,
being,
Parliament being mentioned as having participated through the committee process.
All right.
Yeah.
I'd like us to come to an end of this discussion, but Dr. I want you to maybe highlight to Kenyans. Let's say, you know, somebody is coming from, say, Migori, and maybe it's a village, you know, in Migori. How would you want them to gauge the performance of a member of parliament if they do not have access to even watch those debates on television? How are they able to say, okay, my member of parliament, they came, got my vote, and I can see that they're doing something, they're actually working?
Okay, as I said earlier, our participation and talking and speaking in the assembly is paramount. We can't avoid it.
Right.
But remember, most of the members of the public, like in Migori where I come from, many of our constituents do not even have access to TVs. And you know, parliamentary proceedings are only broadcasted through KBC, which again, many of our members don't watch. I think quite a number of our people do not seem to trust the channel so much. So they go for KTN, these other channels. And
maybe
those who are able to
popular.
access cannot access I mean, they are not interested. Some of them don't watch. A few do watch. Now, apart from that, the performance, as I said earlier, I think I would like it to be all-rounded. And if it has to be a single specific line, then it needs to be clarified. What exactly are we gauging at this point in time? So the participation in parliament is actually important. The work or whatever connectivity of the said legislator with the people that they are representing, the pushing for the development agenda on the ground and initiating ideas that can bring the people up. I think all these need to be gauged. And just the overall operations of the entire thing. For example, like I said earlier, I know for the few months that have been effectively in that parliament, I'm using this term effectively because there was a time that it is on record as NASA, we would come in and go away. That is true. I mean, I can't deny it. Anybody wouldn't. Even our leaders wouldn't deny it, our minority leader. Now, from that time, I have spoken in that parliament. I have gone back to my people. I have initiated certain projects on the ground. And all this needs to be looked at when we are assessing what a leader is doing.
All right.
Meanwhile, as we move on even into these discussions, my humble appeal to the Kenyans, we have wasted a lot of time during this particular year, especially for the elected leaders. It is my humble appeal that we ride on this environment that has been created by the President Uhuru Kenyatta and Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. Through this so-called handshake, there is an environment of peace. I think we need to give our leaders, all of them, a chance to really work in this stable environment, other than creating a lot of rumors of uchochezi to destabilize one person or another. I think Kenyans, it is high time we settled and let this peace reign and let people move. Some of the things, for example, in my county, I'm keen to see myself introduced for the youth and the women. Small processing units of agri-based materials like fruits and milk and all those things. For you to come up with such a thing, it's a process. We never had one before, and it has to take time to create it. Now, when this is going on, somebody's shouting, somebody's not working. You know, those kind of things. We really appeal that we give ourselves time now to implement that which we promised the electorates, and let there be peace for everybody and let us support the initiative of the Big Four.
All right.
I think it is important that that should go to the entire Kenyan and to Migori County in particular, where I come from.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking to us. I've been speaking to Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, who is the Migori woman representative. I've also been speaking to Kevin Osido, who's the executive director, or is it country director?
Something?
Yes. You want to finish very briefly?
I just wanted to probably add on to what Mheshimiwa has said, that the assessment of performance of elected leaders also goes down to the people who elect them. And I think, in my view, is to look at it holistically from not only national but also county levels, because we're looking at public funds that are being dispensed down there to be able to do certain things. So citizens, really, we need to organize ourselves through certain citizen action groups or processes that can be able to monitor these actions, not the degree to which someone is speaking, but the ability to see services being delivered, so that when you go to a health facility, there are service providers, there are drugs, you go to the pharmacy, painkillers are there, you go to agriculture, there is proper roads for you to be able to move your goods within the county, because the infrastructure is working, so that then when we generate indices or reports on leadership performance, it doesn't have to be on what someone is saying, because you can be talking by singing things which no one wants to listen to. But then, can we be able to put those words into action? Action being that the citizens can be able to see services being driven, being rendered to them. So I think, as we also are looking at the performance of our leaders at this level, let's also begin to ask ourselves, what is my role as a voter? What is my role as a common citizen? What's my role as a Kenyan, where the leader is supposed to be exercising his or her leadership?
All right. Thank you very much, Kevin Osido, from the County Governance Watch. Thank you for speaking to us. All right, so we'll be looking at your responses. Remember, we are also asking you on Twitter if members of Parliament performance should be pegged on just how much you speak on the floor of the House. We've been having a very robust conversation, and I'm seeing quite a number of tweets here. I'll be sampling them shortly, or I can just sample one or two. Biwat Dennis, you say MPs shouldn't be judged based on their Parliament debates. Some have never talked on the floor but are present on the ground, and vice versa. All right, thank you for your comment. I'll be getting quite a number of other tweets in a few moments, but we want to also just take a short commercial break, but we're following up on a number of top stories, one of which, of course, is happening in Mombasa, where we have more than 2,000 representatives from different counties participating in that county legislative summit. We'll be having the latest details on that. Remember, like I mentioned, the Deputy President William Ruto will be officially opening that summit in a few minutes in Mombasa, and we'll be crossing over there to just follow through with what's happening. Let's take a short commercial break. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Lakini tunaimba moja ambayo inatushirikisha sisi wote.